Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Bhagavad Paramahansa Parikacharya Ashtottara Shishi Mara Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parikacharya Ashtottara Shishi Mara Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 27th day of November 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are beginning chapter 1, entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra, page 31. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakur Vata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakur Vata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakur Vata Sanjaya. Go ahead, Marcy. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurbata Sanjaya. I'll read the word by words. Dhritarashtra Uvacha, King Dhritarashtra said, Dharma Kshetre, in the place of pilgrimage, Kurukshetre, in the place named Kurukshetra, Samavetaha, assembled, Yuyutsavaha, desiring to fight, Mamakaha, my party or sons, Pandavaha, the sons of Pandu, Cha and Eva, certainly, Kim, what, Akurbata, did they do? Sanjay, O Sanjay. Translation. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Purport. The Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, or glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read the Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna, and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession, without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharmakshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary, Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in that field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjay was a student of Vyas, and therefore, by the mercy of Vyas, Sanjay was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family. But Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son Duryodhana and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthir would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmakshetra and Kurukshetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Srila Prabhupada makes it clear in the purport to this first verse that the Bhagavad Gita is a great treasure. It's a summary of all of the Vedic wisdom, but it has to be received in the right way. Otherwise, one is barred from really understanding the import of the Gita. Prabhupada gives the example that his spiritual master gave of licking the outside of the bottle of honey. There's a bottle of honey, but if you don't know how to get the inside to taste it, you may lick on the outside, but you're not going to get anything. So if you approach the Bhagavad Gita in the wrong way, as some kind of historical document, or one of many Vedic writings that give some idea of what in other words, there's all kinds of ways of not approaching it properly. One has to receive it, as Prabhupada would often say, just as Arjuna did, in the mood of a disciple. And that's why the verse in the beginning of the second chapter, in text 7, where Arjuna stops arguing with Krishna and he takes the position of a disciple, as someone who is simply ready to receive the knowledge from the absolute source. That is the proper way to receive the Gita. And Prabhupada makes the point elsewhere that since the Bhagavad Gita is absolute knowledge spoken by the absolute truth, it doesn't matter that we're not there on the battlefield. We can get the same benefit Arjuna did if we receive the knowledge in the same mood. So that's one of the miracles of the Bhagavad Gita. He said you can read it every day, 5 times a day, and you'll get new realization from it. Because it's dealing with eternal truths, and there's never any limit to that. Just like we can chant Hare Krishna from here to eternity, and we can get ever new realizations from it, because it's absolute, it's transcendental. So, if we understand the Bhagavad Gita in the line of disciplic succession, as we are fortunate to do, because Srila Prabhupada is part of that disciplic succession, most glorious part, then we can get the real benefit. Dhritarashtra is worried because he knows that Krishna is on the side of the Pandus and that they're virtue personified. And so he, I think, suspects that the jig is up for this whole conspiracy to try to steal the kingdom. Okay, should we go on? Yes, please.
What happened to the battlefield? Is it a memorial?
It's still there. Battlefield is there. It's still a place of pilgrimage. I'm sorry.
It's not developed or anything, is it?
No, I don't. I mean, I've never been there. I don't. But as far as I know, you can still go there, and it's not a city. It's still a field where you can see where the battle took place. It's still a place of pilgrimage. Yeah. I think there's a temple there. I don't think it's an ISKCON temple, but there's a people go there on pilgrimage. Okay. Text 2. Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtva Tupanibani Kam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they would never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjaya wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king, and thus he assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjaya therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhana, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief, Dronacharya, to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He, Duryodhana, was therefore quite fit to be a politician, but Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangements of the Pandavas. Okay, so there's all this kind of intrigue going on in this first chapter in different relationships. Dronacharya, of course, was also the teacher of the Pandavas of the military art. So he had a relationship there, and he was also very fond of them. There's a lot of cross loyalties across the different armies. Okay, text 3. Pashyaitam bandhuputranam acharya mahatim chamum vyudham jupataputrena tavashishyena dhimata. O my teacher, so this is Duryodhana speaking to Dronacharya, O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. Purport: Duryodhana, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahmin commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupada, the father of Draupadi, who was Arjun's wife. As a result of this quarrel, Drupada performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet, as a liberal Brahmin, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupada, Drishtadyumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Drishtadyumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for their military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhana pointed this mistake of Dronacharya's so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this, he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjuna, especially, was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhana also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. So, it is a complicated relationship. You've got Dronacharya and his disciple Drishtadyumna. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. The disciple Drishtadyumna, who was the son of Drupada, his arch enemy, and so Drishtadyumna has got a benediction to be able to kill Dronacharya, his own teacher. Text 4. Atra shura maheshvasa bhimarjana samayudhi yuyudhano viratascha drupadascha maharataha. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna, great fighters like Yuyudhan, Virata, and Drupada. Purport: even though Drishtadyumna was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, there were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhana as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory because each and every one of them was as formidable as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them. Drishtaketus Chekitana Kasirajas Chabiryavan Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaibyascha Narapungavaha. There were also great heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Bhoja, and Shaibya. Okay. So this is all on the side of the Pandavas. Yudhamanyushta Vikranta Uttamaujaschta Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadeyascha Sarva Eva Maharataha. There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. Asmakam tu vishishtaye Tanabodad Vijotama Nayaka Mamasainyasya Sangyarthang Tan Bhavimite. But for your information, O best of the Brahmins, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samatinjaya Ashvatthama Vikarnascha Saumadattis Tataivacha. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashvatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bodhisattva, who are always victorious in battle. Purport. Duryodhana mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhana. Ashvatthama is the son of Dronacharya. And Saumadatti, or Bodhisattva, is the son of the king of the Balikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjuna, as he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya's twin sister married Dronacharya. Annecha bhavak shura madarte tyakta jivita nana shastra parahana praharana. Sarve Yudha Visharadaha. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in the military science. Purport. As far as the others are concerned, like Jayadratha, Kritavarma, and Shalya, all are determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, of course, confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends. Now, one thing I remember from the Bhagavatam, it also describes something of the battle, how in the prayers of Bhishma Dev, when he's about to leave his body, he says that all the soldiers who died on that battlefield were promoted to their original Swarup. In other words, they all went back to Godhead because they died in the presence of Krishna. So that's interesting.
I have a question.
Yes?
How come Karna does not fight with Arjuna and Karna does?
Well, Karna has an interesting history. Kunti was benedicted by Durvasa Muni, blessed by Durvasa Muni with a mystic power, because she pleased him by, was it cooking or something? She did some service for him and pleased him. And so he blessed her with the power that she could call any demigod. She's just a young girl, maybe 18 or something. So she tried it out. She tried out her power, and she called the sun god. So the sun god came down, and she said, there's a painting of her. Wow, it's like, wow, it worked. There's the sun god in a room. And nobody else knew about it. And so the sun god said, well, now that I've come, you have to give birth. In other words, there has to be some meaning to it. She said, oh, I'm a virgin girl. She said, don't worry, we'll keep everything intact. So somehow she got pregnant and gave birth to Karna, all in secret. And then it's right out of the Bible. Moses, she finds a river and she makes a little raft, puts the baby on there, and down he goes. Isn't that in the Bible? So in other words, all kept secret. So Karna goes down, little baby Karna goes down the river, and he's picked out of the river by a couple who was like a Sudra couple. It was a carpenter or something like that. And they raised him, and her name was Radha or something. He became Radheya. He was known as Radheya. He wasn't known as Karna. But it was unusual in that he was born with little armor on, indicating he was a special birth. Little, I don't know, organic armor somehow. And so he turned out to be this super wonderful Kshatriya. He didn't get trained by Dronacharya, but he was trained elsewhere. But he was so powerful a warrior that he could defeat Arjuna. So what happened was he grows up. Everyone knows him as the son of the carpenter, an exceptional Kshatriya somehow. And then there was the Swayamvara. Swayamvara is the place where the very beautiful princess chooses her own husband. So Draupadi was, in the Swayamvara. Was it Draupadi? Must have been. But yeah. So the warriors came to compete for her, and one was the Pandavas came. Were they incognito at the time? I forget. Yeah, something like that. But she realized that Karna was so good an archer. There was some kind of a test. Was it the fish? Yeah, partly. Up on the ceiling, you had to look down and shoot with the reflection. It was the whole thing. You're shooting up and looking down. And she said, "Well, nobody but Kshatriyas can compete," because she knew that would get prevent Karna from being. He became infuriated by that, very insulted, and he took the side of the Duryodhana on the other side. So he saw the Pandavas as his arch enemies, even though they were all his half brothers.
They didn't know they were half brothers.
They didn't know, but I think he knew. He knew, but they didn't know. So anyway, they're arch enemies, and then finally, and he was almost ready to kill Arjuna at one point on the battlefield, but he was saved at the last minute. Was it Krishna who saved him? He was off his chariot. The chariot got stuck in the mud or something. He was about to kill him, but Krishna saved him somehow. I forget how. So he was like a tragic figure because he really was the first, son of Kunti, but he could never take that role. So Duryodhana saw what a great warrior was, and he took him under his wing, and so he became very faithful to Duryodhana.
Karna means ear.
I know. I think it's because he was born with these earrings, like these special earrings. Yeah, all kinds of ornaments on, organic ornaments. As far out. All right, where were we? 10. I think we're on 10. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhima virakshitam. Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Purport: herein, an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained, although it was faulty. It was wrong. So the one interesting thing about Duryodhana, he was an expert club fighter. He was trained by Balaram. Balaram actually trained him. So there's all of these cross loyalties and things. And that's why Balaram didn't want to even see the battle. As soon as the battle was threatened, he went on pilgrimage. He went out. And finally he came back after a time and it was just ending. And there was Duryodhana fighting with Bhima in a club fight. And Duryodhana had this, his mother was Gandhari, who became very powerful because of her austerity and her renunciation. Her husband, Dhritarashtra, was blind from birth. You know why? That's another far-out thing. Because Vichitravirya, was the original father, but he couldn't have children. He was the husband of, who was it? You forget. Several. There's Ambalika. Anyway, so they called his brother Vyasadeva to beget the children. So the first one, he comes in, now he's a sage, he's living out in the forest, so he's got all, growth and everything. He's kind of, scary. So, I forget the names, Ambalika. The first lady, she was so scared, she closed her eyes. And when, they're having sex. And therefore, the son born was blind, Dhritarashtra. He was the eldest, but because he was blind, he couldn't inherit the throne. You see? So the next lady, she kept her eyes open, but there was such a scary experience that she turned white, and that's why Pandu was born. Pandu means white. He had a especially white complexion. Now the third lady, she was like the maidservant, so she was worldly. She was cool with it, And Vidura was born. Vidura was but she was the maidservant. She wasn't really the wife. There were two wives and the maidservant. So he didn't have the same kind of heritage. He was always considered a Shudra. But he was actually virtue personified, great devotee. But he wasn't blind and he wasn't white, but he also couldn't inherit the kingdom. So Dhritarashtra, Pandu was the king. And he had these two queens, Kunti and Madri. But he's out in the forest, and the Kshatriyas, they practice their archery out there. So he went out there, and he saw a deer, and he shot the deer. But it turns out this deer was actually a Brahmin who had been cursed to become a deer, and he was about to copulate with his wife deer, and she was killed. I think she was killed. So the deer, I guess, maybe turned back into a Brahmin and said, "Oh, you killed my wife." So he cursed Pandu that he couldn't have sex. If he had sex with his wife, he would immediately die. You heard that one. So he's out there in the forest again, and somehow I think it was Madri, he couldn't restrain himself. He has sex and he dies. But by that time, so now you have these two wives. But no, I think he was alive. I forget if they wanted to have children, but he couldn't have children. So Kunti uses her power to evoke the gods, and Indra comes down, and then Arjuna is born. And then the first was Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is the eldest. Yes, first was Dharmaraj. And then second was Bhima, was Vayu. The god of the air, very powerful, and Bhima was born. And the third was Arjun, which was Indra. And then Madri wanted to have children, so the Ashwini Kumaras come down, and somehow he gets pregnant and has twins. So now you have the 5 Pandavas. And when Pandu expired because he had sex, then what to do? You have these 5 young boys now. So Madri says, "All right, I'll do the sati." In other words, they burned the body, and she entered the fire, and that left Kunti with the young boys. And so now, what are we going to do? She needs shelter, so she takes shelter on Dhritarashtra. He said, it's because Pandu is dead, so even though Dhritarashtra is blind, he'll keep the kingdom. The idea is he'll keep the kingdom intact until the boys grow up. So you have this kind of situation where he's the king, and he has all his 100 sons, and they say, "Well, wait a minute, we can be the king now. All you have to do is get rid of these boys." So that's why they had this conspiracy to kill the Pandavas, and they were always saved by Krishna, or Vidura saved them. The story with the house of lac. Oh, why did you go live at Varanataka for a while? I forget the exact name of it. We built a nice house for you. So they were going off, and Vidura said, he hinted that. He didn't tell them exactly. He said, there's a weapon that, it doesn't have any blade, but it can kill you, like that. So they figured it out. Are they going to burn it down? As soon as they walked in, it has a certain smell because it's saturated with this lac, which is lacquer that's been boiled down. And it's very, very flammable.
It'll just go up, So they understood that, and they had Prabhupada says a subway, it's actually a tunnel, was dug underneath. And so when the time came, just before they got out, before it happened. And it just so happened, by Krishna's arrangement, that one lady came, the Sudra lady came with her 5 sons, and they were burned to a crisp, and they couldn't see who it was. They thought it was Kunti and the 5 Pandavas. So they thought they were dead. That's why Krishna, back in Dwarka, he came to mourn the 5 Pandavas at one point, because the word went out, they were killed in this fire. They were actually taking refuge in the forest. And that's where he killed, Bhima killed Hidimba. That's the whole thing. And his sister Hidimbi, these are Rakshasas. She got attracted to Bhima. And she kept like a human form. And they got married. They went on tour around the universe. And Gatotkacha was born. Did you know Gatotkacha? Bhima's son. And he was a great warrior. He helped on the battlefield. So all this is part of the Mahabharata. Quite an adventure. Where were we? 11? Yeah. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yata bhagam avastitaha bhishma me vabi rakshantu bhavanta sarvevihi. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. Purport. Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important. So in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Dev was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He, Bhishma, might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that the other heroes not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Dev. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya in the battle because he well knew that they did not even speak a word when Arjun's wife Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the 2 generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up as they had done during the gambling performances. Okay. Text 12. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vridha pitamaha singhanadam vinadyochai shankam dadna patapavan. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion and giving Duryodhana joy. Purport. The grandsire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana, and out of his natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection. So conch shell obviously means Krishna, that's his symbol. Text 13. Tataksham bhiryascha. Go ahead. Panabanaka gomakaha sahasarvabhyahanyanta sashabdas tumalo bhavat. Okay, guess without looking, what does tumalo mean? Yeah, tumultuous. Same word in English and Sanskrit. Cool, huh? After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. Tatak shvetarhaya yukte mahati syandanestitao madhava pandavas chaiva Divyashankau Padadmatuhu. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Purport. In contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Dev, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicated that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Jayastu Panduputranam Yesham Pakshe Janardana. Victory is always with the persons like the sons of Pandu, because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there, because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. Therefore, victory and fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Besides that, this chariot on which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna, and this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides wherever it was drawn over the three worlds. And don't forget the last verse. You remember what the last verse says? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partur Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So this is Sanjay speaking at the very end. And he says, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So Dhritarashtra must have been pretty depressed when he heard that. But that's the way it goes. And eventually after the battle, he's sitting shamefully in the palace of Yudhishthira, taking the remnants of food from those who killed all his sons. And who comes to save him? Vidura. But Vidura, he was on pilgrimage, he comes back and just preaches to him, you're in a shameful position. You're getting old, your liver is getting weak, you know. You only have a few more days. Why, leave home. Just get out. And so he leaves with Gandhari, an old man, He goes out and he practices meditation, and I don't think it says it goes back to Godhead, but he goes to an exalted position. And that's the very dramatic section of the first canto there, deciding. Okay, so tomorrow, where did we end? Okay, we'll be on 15 tomorrow, right? All right, let me put the marker in. And unfortunately, I have to confess, I did not queue up the kirtan I promised you that we were going to read about.
Jamal's not here.
He's the one who wanted to hear it.
He wanted to hear
Okay, yeah, they went on an engagement. All right, so tomorrow, maybe. All right, so we will read the Nectar of Devotion. Okay. Oh yeah, remember we were going to do our verse. Okay. Let's do our verse. Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipano Saddharma Sangstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padada Vinda Bhajananande Namattaliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Okay. So, all right, bookmarks. Yesterday. There we are. So we're going through the 64 different elements of devotional service. And we came to one must offer prayers. This is the theme of our seminar this year at Christmas. I'm picking out various prayers. There's a section that each of these is then described in more detail. And one of them is one must offer prayers. And this is called Vigyapti. Vigyapti. And it's like entreaty. There's different styles of prayers. I forget the technical. One is offering sincere prayers. Another is Dainya Bodhika, which means revealing oneself to be in a very fallen condition. And the other is Lala Shamayi, which is a longing for a specific position. And every morning when we do the Tulsi Puja, that song is in the mood of this Lala Shamayi. It means, please let me have a position as your maidservant. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant, that's Dainya Bodhika. The very fallen and lowly servant prays, may I always swim in the love of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. So this is very common in our line. To define the goal and offer a prayer to achieve that goal. Otherwise, you can pray to Krishna for what, normally you would pray for something material, at least liberation. But in our line, it's rare that you pray for liberation. Lord says, no, I'm not praying for liberation. Birth after birth, I don't want money, I don't want followers, I don't want women, I don't want kavitam, even high education. All I want is your devotional service, unmotivated devotional service, birth after birth. So how you formulate your prayers is like very indicative of where you want to go in your spiritual life. So this is a very important section. So we stopped here. One must taste mahaprasadam, food from the very plate offered before the deities. This is one of the easiest of the 64. 18. One must drink charanamrita, water from the bathing of the deities, which is offered to guests. There's still probably some left, right? 19. One must smell the incense and flowers offered to the deity. 20. One must touch the lotus feet of the deity. Well, this is a privilege of those who actually go on the altar. One must see the deity with great devotion. That we can do. 22. One must offer arati at different times. 23. One must hear about the Lord and his pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar books. 24. One must pray to the deity for his mercy. 25. One should remember the deity. 26. One should meditate upon the deity. 27. One should render some voluntary service. 28. One should think of the Lord as one's friend. 29. One should offer everything to the Lord. 30. One should offer a favorite article such as food or a garment. 31. One should take all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. 32. In every condition, one should be a surrendered soul. 33. One should pour water on the Tulsi tree. 34. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and similar literatures. 35. One should live in a sacred place like Mathura or Vrindavan or Dwarka. 36. One should offer service to Vaishnavas, devotees. 37. One should arrange one's devotional service according to one's means. 38. In the month of Kartik, October and November, one should make arrangement for special services. 39. During Janmashtami, the time of Krishna's appearance in this world, one should observe a special service. 40. One should do whatever is done with great care and devotion for the deity. 41. One should relish the pleasure of Bhagavatam reading among devotees and not among outsiders. 42. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. 43. One should chant the holy name of the Lord. 44. One should live in the jurisdiction of Mathura. Now, the total regulative principles come to an aggregate of 64 items. So this is 44. There were 20 original ones. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10 regulative principles. Then come the secondary 10 regulative principles. And added to these are 44 other activities. So altogether, there are 64 items for discharging the regulative practice of devotional service. Out of these 64 items, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among devotees, Sankirtan, and living in Mathura, are very important. The 64 items of devotional service should include all of our activities of body, mind, and speech. As stated in the beginning, the regulative principle of devotional service enjoins that all of our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. Exactly how they can be thus employed is described in the above 64 items. Now Srila Rupa Goswami will give evidence from different scriptures supporting the authenticity of many of these points. Chapter 7, Evidence regarding devotional principles. And now he goes through each one. The first one is accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabuddha tells Maharaj Nimi, "My dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness." So this is a section that I memorized at one point. I forgot the Sanskrit now. "It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation." This is this verse. How's it go? Tasmad gurum papadyeta jigyashu shreya uttamam shabde parechadishnatam brahman yupashamashayam. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss. Okay, so we will resume that a week from next Monday, because I'm going to read that. I'm going to find that account tomorrow. Hopefully Jamal is here. Assuming Jamal is here, we'll read it tomorrow. And we'll put off the nectar devotion till a week from Monday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Oh, you mean the
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Himate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Himate Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Krishna
ISKCON, the founder of church, Srila Bhagavad Jai. Jai Vishnu Pad, Paramahamsa, to the God Church, Ashtotra, the Shishima, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti, Siddhanta, Srila Thakur, Jai. Ananti Bhakti Vaishnava, Jai. Namachar, Srila Haridas Thakur, Jai. Thank you, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Bhagavan Chanda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri SanDiego, Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Prakun, Giri Bhagavan, Jai. Nandavandam Ki Jai. Navadip Maya Purnam Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ram Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mati Ki Jai. Yamuna Mati Ki Jai. Kosi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Transcendental Distribution Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samadeta Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narsimhaya.
Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Balaralalaye.
Saladaladaye.
Okay, Zach. What's that line I taught you last night? This morning.
It is, wait.
Sulalita.
Sulalita Charita
All. Nikila.
Nikila
Jana.
Janaranjana.
Exact same thing.
Sulalita
That's my job.
Last night.
Sulalita Nikila Janaranjana.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
intended to be.
Sulalita Nikila Janaranjana.
try it first.
Lalita, Charita, Tequila, Jana,
Nice
Ramita.
models. Who made?
Yeah, I was also wondering that. I don't know if that's pretty.
It looks smooth.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, do you know who made these ladders this week? They look different. Do the shot.
Leadership.
No,
Oh, Parashah.
She's back.
No, but she's not back.
yesterday I thought it was partial. You knew it was dog.
She leave a stock? How long ago did she make it?
Little shark, or what the first shark you made like 6 weeks in advance. And
Oh, she did really, huh?
But I thought yesterday's was hers. So whose was yesterday?
That was leadership.
Oh.
She's the only one that with
Cash and time.
Oh, okay. Zach, I'm going to clean up the that middle table I used.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
you can see that.
Just give it to the side. Hold on. I'm sorry. I couldn't. Wait.
Forgive me, Suresh.
You got it down.
Forgive me.
Better.
No. That's
Bueno, es broccoli, no es
Oh, no, that'd be big.
Yeah, one.
Big breakers.
one.
Just one.
That's all.
He's cutting the steer.
Well, you will lunch it this way, ready.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
You can put a little more soda.
Probably.
Yeah, right. I had a lot of party for lunch. And then I'll just walk
And look, yeah.
Thank you.
Finally,
What?
my car, this Camry,
It's working.
you will
Yeah.
what?
Camry, huh?
Yeah. But reason AAA said it's wrong battery.
Yeah, you told me.
So power. So yeah, 6 and 7 bigger.
No.
So that's really frustrated. You know, no transport system. And my wife, this 2 days, this school.
You couldn't go to work?
Exactly. No, could go to drop.
You would definitely go to work.
Pick up.
Nice.
That I need help.
I can call psychologist.
Huh?
I can call doctor.
Doctor?
You need help? I call doctor. With what?
My miss call.
Yeah.
So does not ring.
You didn't pick it up.
No, I don't know.